Okay, let's take a moment to get real for a second. Okay, I want you guys to think about something that you loved doing prior to narcissistic abuse. Okay, something you were passionate about, something that gave you a lot of joy. And did you find that throughout the years, it was impossible to engage in that activity, right? We all know that narcissistic abuse, a lot of it is about how they regulate themselves through the other person. And so when it comes to them, they don't really feel joy or happiness. They can mimic joy and happiness. They can act as if they are. They can say they are, but the real emotion of joy and happiness doesn't really, it's not something that they can feel, okay? So when it comes to narcissistic abuse, if they can't feel something and they see you feeling it, that only shows them their lack, and they can't handle that. So they constantly are doing things to stamp out your joy and your happiness, including the times when you are doing something that you're really passionate about. Now, the thing with narcissistic abuse is it's not always obvious, okay? So it's not like they say, don't do that passion, or I don't want you to do that, or you're not allowed. Now, if they're overt narcissists, they might, but a covert will never utter those words. And that's why it gets so confusing, right? But what they will do is they will either cause a lot of stress when you're engaging in your passion, or they will start a fight that has nothing to do with your passion, but every time you're engaged in that passion, a fight results. And your brain starts catching on that there's something dangerous about engaging in that passion. And something else that's subtle that they do is they will kind of give you this look of contempt. Now, this might sound like a little thing, like big deal, somebody's giving you this look of contempt. But for anyone that was raised with narcissistic parents that controlled you with that look of contempt, when you're an adult now and you're in a relationship with somebody that is toxic like your parent, that look of contempt wakes up the fears that you felt in childhood. So they will start giving you that look of contempt when you're engaged in your passion, and that your body will have a response. You'll start to feel uncomfortable. You'll start to feel anxiety, and you start wondering what you're doing wrong. And oftentimes you will stop engaging in your passion, and the narcissist will suddenly be really nice. It's like they reward you when you make that change in behavior. So again, the reason I'm saying all of this first is so that you understand why, while you're with the person, why you slowly begin losing you more and more. And it really starts with losing the things that you love. Okay. So a lot of you might be like, okay, Michele, I get that. I completely understand what happened in the past, but I've been out of the relationship. Maybe I've left the home of my narcissistic parents a decade ago, or I've been out of this romantic relationship for years, and I still can't do the things that I loved. I was so excited that finally I was going to leave the person stopping me and I was going to be able to do the things I love, and I can't. If that's your case, all is not lost. I've been there. I remember feeling those things and thinking those things. And I remember if somebody had told me, Michele, you can get over this, at that moment, I would have looked at the person like they were crazy, because that's how ingrained it had become to not be able to do the things that I loved. But I'm going to break it down for you. And I'm going to give you some tips that can help you today to start breaking out of this stuck place that you've been in, no matter how long you've been out of the relationship. Okay, with that in mind, we do have to understand a bit about the brain. Now, I'm a big science geek, and I I'm always learning about the brain. In fact, if my daughter was watching this channel, she'd be like, oh no, here we go. Because I'm fascinated with what the brain does, what it can do, how it changes, how you can use it to your benefit, what you learn, etc. Okay, but we do have to understand that narcissistic abuse changes the brain. And in this case, honing in on your passions and not being able to do them. What I'm going to talk about is how implicit memory plays a part. So your implicit memory is created through repetition. It's created through the associations that your brain makes between your emotions, your thoughts, what you're experiencing, and how you behave. And our implicit memory is super helpful for us because once something is in our implicit memory, we don't have to think about it. We can do things almost unconsciously, like riding a bike, right? Once you know how to ride a bike, it's not like every time you get on the bike, you have to think, okay, I have to do this and I have to do that. I have to do that. No. Once you've done it so often, it's stored in that part of your brain and it's easy to do without thought. So a place where you can sometimes notice your implicit memory showing up and it kind of freaks you out, at least it freaks me out, is if you've taken the same route for a long time to work or from wherever you are to your house and you're busy thinking, right, of other things. And suddenly you arrive home and you're like, oh my God, I have no recollection of how I got here. My brain was somewhere else. Thankfully, I can say that doesn't happen often, but the few times that happened to me freaked me out. Like so who was driving the car? It was your implicit memory, or in this case, my implicit memory. So it has its place and it's super helpful so that we don't have to continually relearn or have to put so much thought into doing something over and over again. Okay. However, when it comes to narcissistic abuse and implicit memory, it can really affect how we wind up feeling towards certain things, such as in this case, for the sake of this video, we're focusing on things we love to do. One part of the brain that is involved in forming implicit memory is your amygdala. And your amygdala stores also everything that has a strong emotional charge. In fact, the more intense the charge, the more of a dent it leaves in your nervous system. And again, it's not that your nervous system is your enemy as much as it is that it thinks it's helping you. So for example, if I'm riding my bike, right, and I'm not putting much thought, and I'm on a road, but I'm getting careless and I'm really getting close to the oncoming traffic. If I have like a near-death experience where a car just misses me, just a tiny, tiny bit, my amygdala is going to latch on to the emotion that took place together with the behavior that caused it. And it's going to create like a dent in my nervous system. And at that time, it probably caused me to go into major fight or flight, right? Well, if I didn't process that and, I just stifled what happened and I didn't work through it, that's stored in my nervous system. And the amygdala is going to look for anything similar in the future because it's dented now in my nervous system, right? Anything, it's going to look for anything similar. And again, its goal is to keep me safe. So let's say I go to ride a bike and I'm not even near a road. My implicit memory, because the amygdala has had such an intense reaction to what happened, and possibly if I didn't process the fight or flight, it's still there in my nervous system. So just going near the bike is going to cause a lot of discomfort. Now, taking that a step further with the repetition, anything with a big charge where we were flung into our fight or flight, and then repetitiously facing that is going to get lodged into that implicit memory. Okay, so what does this have to do with your passions? Let's go back to what I was talking about in the beginning, how every time you're doing something that you love, the narcissist makes you feel guilty or shame, or the narcissist provokes a feeling in your body. And sometimes this is covertly done. You don't even realize sometimes that it's them. It's that look of contempt. You're not even aware of it. You're just like, oh, something feels uncomfortable. And so your brain makes a decision, something's uncomfortable, let me stop. And your brain starts thinking, this is what's causing the discomfort, is this thing you love. Done over and over again. Now it's in your implicit memory to avoid that thing you loved. So what happens is you realize, you wake up at some point and you realize that that relationship with the narcissist is what was twisting and stealing the things that you loved from you. It was so now you're like super excited to do what you love, but because these parts of your brain are part of your autonomic nervous system, which means they bypass your conscious mind. They respond without your conscious consent. Okay, so that means, let's say your passion was reading a book. I always use this one. I know those that know me and have been with my channel for a long time know why, but let's just use this one. Okay, but in your case, it could be singing. It could be playing an instrument. It could be laughing. For some, I've had clients that say, Michele, I don't even let myself laugh anymore. It could be enjoying going to certain restaurants. It could be anything. In fact, I want you, if you're watching this video, then it resonates with you. I want you to make it personal and think about what is it that you loved to do or would love to do again that is challenging for you. Okay, make it personal for yourself. So I'm just going to use reading a book as an example, but I'm now excited. I'm going to go read a book. But what happens? I pick up the book and my body starts freaking out and I feel so uncomfortable that I put it down. Why does that happen? Well, when it comes to our survival brain, there are no words. Our survival brain doesn't say, hey, Michele, this is what I'm thinking. No, there's no words that come from the survival brain. Rather, it turns on neurotransmitters and hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, and it gives us emotional cues. So when we feel these hormones in our body, we get an emotional cue that something is dangerous, something is wrong, something doesn't feel good. If we respond by listening to those cues and we stop the behavior, we are actually strengthening the implicit memory of that behavior being dangerous. Okay, so what do? Now that you understand that what the reason this is taking place is because the narcissistic repetition plus negative emotion has infiltrated your implicit memory, has made your amygdala hyperactive to danger of that specific activity. Well, now what? Two things help. Okay, the first thing is now that you're aware of it. When we're not aware of it, our autonomic nervous system makes that decision that it's dangerous and we give in because we don't know what's going on. We're like, something's wrong, I'm going to stop. But when we're conscious, we can be like, oh, there's my survival brain trying to tell me that this is dangerous, but wait a second, is it? Let me ask myself, is it dangerous to read this book? No. At that moment, you are breaking out of the neural pathways that your brain has been traveling for a long time if you were undergoing narcissistic abuse for a long time. And it takes a detour to know this is safe. Okay, that's one way that you can break out of that is through that awareness and making that conscious choice when you start feeling that discomfort in your body. The second thing that helps is what you do after you break out of that unconscious, that unconscious highway that your neural pathways have been following for a long time. And you go to read the book. Don't read 1,000 pages, read a paragraph, just one small step. I say that because if your amygdala is thinking you're still in danger, it's going to be flooding your body with hormones that are going to cause a tremendous amount of discomfort. It's going to cause your heart rate to accelerate, and it's going to be so overwhelming that it's going to stop you and then start reinforcing that old thinking pattern again. So start small and then celebrate. Okay. I talk a lot about this in the Thriver School of Transformation. If we don't celebrate that small thing we did, like reading a paragraph, our brain won't register it and it won't imprint the nervous system. Remember, our nervous system's like geared up to danger all the time. And so imagine my life is in danger, right? A lion's about to, it's 5 feet away from me, but there's this really, really cute little kitten, like to my right. Am I going to stop and be like, wow, that is so cute. Oh my goodness. I want to just hug it and love it. No, I'm not, because my life is in danger and the lion is right there. Well, our nervous system is like that. If we have been feeling that we're stuck in danger for a long time, which is what narcissistic abuse does, you have this constant underlying fear that something horrible is about to happen. And so your brain is like searching for that danger all the time. And anything you do that's good, like that paragraph that you just read, is going to be like, whatever, danger, 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 danger. That's what it's going to do. Unless you celebrate it and you're like, yes, look what I did. I'm so happy. And you basically bring up a positive emotion in your body and you call a lot of attention to it. And your brain's like, what's Michele doing over there? Now it's forced to pay attention because of the amount of emotion that I'm putting in with a new behavior. Okay. I promise you guys that this works. I promise you. But I know that there's nothing worse than losing the things that you loved in life. There's nothing worse than living in your body and feeling like you're not really living your life. A lot of it has to do with things like this. It's the way the brain changed as a result of narcissistic abuse, but you can change it back. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this video, and keep in touch, whether on the community page or in the video. Let me know any changes that you notice, because when you post those changes, it inspires others. And for anyone that's struggling and would love more weekly, consistent assistance on narcissistic abuse recovery and cptsd recovery, remember to join us in the Thriver School of Transformation. You get the first week free to taste it, see if you like it. And if you don't want to continue with us, you can easily exit without any cost to yourself. If you choose to stay on, the monthly cost is $79.99, and we meet 3 times a week. Not that you go to all the meetings, but I have different times for different time zones because it's international. It's people from all over the world. And we do different things. We have group coaching. We have cognitive learning. We have somatic modalities like EFT and breath work. We do guided visualizations. So if you'd like that weekly assistance, feel free to come check us out.